quit my job in the pandemic to travel the world, starting in Italy, Apulia. And since I had one or maybe a bit more problems there, especially with like public transport, I thought I put together a little guide about how to backpack Apulia in Italy and share my experiences. So first of all, where to stay if you want to be on a budget. Actually, I always prefer hostels over everything else, not just because of the price, but also because of the whole atmosphere you get there and get to know new people and everything. So I really like that. But unfortunately, in the south of Italy, it's rather hard to first find hostels. Like, actually, the only hostels I found were in Bari and in Lecce. Lecce is like really down south at like the heel. Yeah, also in Bari, it's around about like 25 hours per night, and in Lecce, it's a little bit cheaper. But of course, it always depends on the season you're going to there. But in general, hostels are rather expensive in the south of Italy, or probably in Italy in general they are a bit more expensive, but especially in the south they are more expensive. So most of the time, even as I was traveling solo, it was cheaper for me to get an Airbnb or hotel room. Like at some point, I think for €30 I got a whole apartment in Alberobello. So even though hostels are usually the most budget-friendly version, in the south of Italy, I advise you to also check out other options like Airbnb or hotels. And now we're getting to like the biggest block of this video, which is the public transport, and also the thing I had kind of most problems with. Since this topic is quite big, I want to divide it into several subcategories. So for example, what kind of public transport is there? What are the prices and how can you even buy the tickets? And also how reliable is everything. So first of all, what is there? So to get around between different cities, you can either take the train or bus, and of course taxi. But just keep in mind that there's no Uber in Italy except for I think Rome and Milan, but in the south there is no Uber. I heard of an app called My Taxi, but I actually never tried that. So the main form of transportation is usually by train or by bus. Keep in mind that there is no bus network that is like all over Italy. Each bus network is like just locally located. So it's probably a different one in every city, and sometimes the city even has 2 or 3 different ones. So between the bigger cities there's usually always a train, and I advise you to take the train because most of the time it's almost the same price, or you're even faster at your destination. But there are also quite a few buses traveling to like the smaller cities as well. So for example, when I got to Pogliano a Mare and to Monopoli, it was really easy to just go there by train. Whereas when I wanted to go to Alberobello, it was easier to take the bus. Next point are prices and how to buy the tickets. First of all, I used 2 apps to like first look for time schedules, but also to buy my tickets. So the first one is Trenitalia, which is like overall Italy. So even if you are going from the south to the north, or just between 2 cities in the north, or just between 2 cities in the south, you can use Trenitalia, and there you can like either look and buy tickets, but you can also check for the status of the train. For me, that works really fine. And Trenitalia has trains as well as bus options, but just keep in mind that for buses you can't look up the status. If you want to travel within a city, so for example take the bus from like the main station to your accommodation, I can recommend My Cicero, which is also an app, and you have to register your credit card there, but from then it's pretty easy because you just type in your destination, and with GPS it automatically looks for like the next bus stop. Also with the app of My Cicero, usually in buses you have like a QR code somewhere hidden, so you can just scan it and that way your ticket is activated. But if not, you can always type in the station where you like get into the bus or ask a driver for a specific code. But most of the time it worked fine that way for me. And that way you kind of avoid, if you're not known or familiar with the place, to buy a ticket somewhere there. A lot of the time it's not possible to buy a ticket in the train or in the bus, so you rather have your ticket beforehand. And if you don't want to use an app, or you don't have internet at this time, or like it happened one time to me, the server of Trenitalia was crashed, then you can always buy a ticket at the tabacce shops, which is like the tobacco stores. And they're really spread all over Italy, so you can always find one or ask somebody. When it comes to prices, it's actually also really nice, because doing public transport in Italy is not really that expensive. I'm just gonna blend in here some of the destinations I took and also the prices, so you get a roundabout feeling on like how long was my trip, how expensive was it. In general, it's pretty affordable, and also within the city I paid never more than €1 or €1.50 for a drive. So now coming to the next stop, and maybe the most critical one, which is the reliability. So first of all, when it comes to reliability of public transport, just always plan 30 minutes or maybe 1 hour more in your schedule, because there always could be delays. I gotta say, trains are really, really reliable. Like the maximum I had there was like 5 or 10 minutes of delay, but we have that in Germany as well, and I think it's basically all over Europe, maybe not in Switzerland, but all over Europe as well. So that was pretty good. But with buses, it's just a different story, because especially when you have to change, like for example, I had to change from Alberobello to get to Ostuni. I had to change the station in Monopoli. And sometimes bus stations can be at the main station, but sometimes they are not. And you have to look for it. Sometimes the information provided by the app is accurate, so you can go there by Google Maps. Sometimes it's not, as it was in Ostuni. And then you better earlier than too late, start asking around for local advice. And there also rather ask like at 2 or 3 different shops, or ask 2 or 3 different persons, because sometimes they don't have the most present information. So for example, when I was in Monopoly and was looking for my bus stop, one guy at the main station in like a bar there actually gave me a copy where the bus is gonna go, but the timetable on the copy was not aligning with the timetable I had the ticket already bought, and also the station was not the one on my app. So it can get quite confusing, but you better do yourself a favor and ask right away, and ask maybe 2 or 3 locals, because in the end you will find out eventually. Keep that in mind, and always be aware of the fact that some buses for me just didn't arrive at all, even though I asked, even though I was at the right stop, I was there early. Just in general, be there at least 10 minutes early, because sometimes buses come earlier. Be aware that the buses can be 10, 20, 30 minutes late. It didn't happen often to me, but it could happen. So just be aware of that, so you don't get frustrated once it's happened. And keep in mind to maybe spontaneously book another option. And always be aware that buses are maybe not driving until really long in the evening. So when I wanted to come back from Ostuni, I think the last bus was at 5:45 in Monopoly. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come back to my accommodation. So please keep that in mind. When you're asking like how is it with the internet, I actually had quite good experience with like the availability of data when you're like using your mobile data. But also I had a lot of like free Wi-Fi hotspots always around. So that was actually pretty good. And one last and final tip, if you're backpacking and want to be a bit on a budget, I can highly recommend using the app Too Good To Go. Too Good To Go, if you don't know it, is actually an app to like avoid food waste. So whenever restaurants know that there will be like some food left over that they couldn't sell that day, you can next day buy like a magic bag, which is actually a surprise box of all the leftovers basically, but you pay less. So I paid like 3 to 5 euros most of the time and got like a really huge meal. Sometimes I could eat from that for a day, because one package, for example, included like sweets, pizza, focaccia. So I was really happy with that. And actually Too Good To Go is known all over Europe, but here in Italy it's spread wow. Here in Italy, it's basically everywhere. No matter like how big the city is, I always found Too Good To Go, and it's just amazing. So make sure to check out Too Good To Go to save some money and also stop food waste. That was it, my friend. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you find it valuable and you got some tips from it when you plan to go to Italy for backpacking. It definitely is possible to do it by public transport. You just have to be aware of some situations. But still, in the end, you can avoid driving your car in like crazy Italian traffic. So, until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and stay creative, my friend.